I think Kenyans have waited for a very long time to get a glimpse of the BBI report, and fortunately it was launched yesterday in a big fanfare at the Bomas of Kenya, in a ceremony that was attended by almost all political leaders and people from different sectors of Kenyan society. And now I think it's upon the Kenyan people to read the report and make suggestions, and where they feel that it needs to be improved, let them make suggestions on how to improve. And let's move forward, because now the report is out. But as you know, as you are aware, that once the report, its contents were known, majority of the people who were at Bomas were in support. But of course, the Deputy President raised some very important issues about the report, and appeared to have had a different opinion, contrary to many of the suggestions in the report. And that makes part of the discussion about the report. The issues that the Deputy President raised should form part of the discussion, either towards improving the report, but also addressing the challenges that he addressed. But by and large, in my opinion, I think the BBI report has raised more challenges than providing solutions to the problems that we faced before. And our anticipation was that the suggestions in the BBI report will enable us to not to experience similar problems. But it appears to me like the main part of the reasons why we face challenges has not been tackled adequately to ensure that moving forward we do not encounter similar challenges. For example, the reason why we had the BBI report is because we wanted electoral reforms to ensure that we do not experience conflicts in every electoral cycle. So we expected that the committee would look into that as one of the biggest challenges and make recommendations on how to address that challenge. Unfortunately, the recommendation that is made might not help in resolving this challenge, the one that is called the winner-take-all situation after every election. Because it makes recommendations that that will include everybody who has participated in an election and lost, that they'll be included in government. Now, I don't think if that is what Kenyans wanted. Kenyans did not want everybody to be in government. They wanted a system where someone wins fairly and is declared the winner. And if you lose, and you lose fairly, you get satisfied and wait for the next cycle of elections. So the recommendation that we expected was, how do you reform our electoral processes to ensure that whoever wins fairly, and whoever loses accepts the results and moves on. But the recommendation that is there is to say you can participate in an election and lose and still be in government. I think this is a very strange recommendation. It is a recommendation that almost says we have no need for elections. We can just organize ourselves and say so-and-so will be this, so-and-so will be that, so-and-so will be that, and then we move on with our lives. Because whoever participates in an election must know that there will be a winner and a loser. But the challenge is that the winner must win fairly and the loser must lose fairly. So BBI was supposed to address the challenge of winning fairly and losing fairly. What processes will ensure that participants in an election win fairly and they also lose fairly and they accept that they have lost? The recommendations are in such a way that if you participate in an election and you lose, you still have a place in government. You see, the electoral process should not be about an individual. And in this case, it should not be about Raila Odinga. The electoral process should be about the Kenyans and what the Kenyans want. And in a democracy, it's the majority that have their way. The minority can have their say. So if you participate in an election and you lose, for example, the presidential election, but you have members of parliament who are elected on your party, then you are actually part of the organization of leadership in this country. The party leaders themselves will not be in government, but their parties are already participating in governance because they will be the majority, the minority, or the opposition in parliament. That is part of democratic processes, that there will be a winner who will form government and the loser will form the opposition. Now, it so happens that in Kenya, there's one loser who wants to have it his way all the time. And that is why this BBI has made this suggestion or this recommendation that the leader of the losing side also joins government. You see, it's like a recommendation that is targeting one particular individual, you know. But it shouldn't be like that. Because in actual sense, the party that has lost is part of the leadership because it is in opposition. And it has roles to play in the Kenyan parliament as official opposition. You know, the only thing that happens is the leader of that party is not in government. And that is why this recommendation is coming about. And that is why I am thinking it is only made to address the wishes of one particular individual because they are not participating in government. I totally agree that those recommendations will help the young people. But you know, that is not what the problem that we had. That was not the problem of our electoral processes. And this idea did not require a BBI, the idea of creating tax exemption for young people, creating jobs for young people. It didn't require a BBI. No, BBI was solely to address the challenges that we face after every electoral cycle. And the challenge was that our electoral processes were considered as unfair, such that a winner does not win confidently and a loser does not lose confidently. This is the thing that the BBI was mandated to address. Yeah. And because this is the reason why there were a lot of problems after the last election. Because the person who lost the election challenged that loss and did not agree that they have lost because they felt that something went wrong in the electoral process. So we needed to look at what went wrong in the electoral processes and address what went wrong. There are so many reports. There's the Kriegler report, you know, and also some of the issues that are raised in the BBI. There are also other reports that address similar issues. So that is why I am thinking that this BBI report, it had expected to address a specific challenge. And this is the challenge of why losers in an election do not accept that they have lost. And it is because the processes during our elections are sometimes flawed. So the recommendations were supposed to address these flaws in our electoral processes. But unfortunately, BBI seemed to have gone fishing and brought in other issues that ideally they were not the mandate of the BBI, or they were not the reason why the handshake actually occurred that led to the establishment of the Building Bridges initiative. The challenges that we had were political, and they had to do with our conduct of elections. They should have concentrated on that and brought us recommendations that would fully address how elections are a very big challenge for us. And I would actually even say that there was even no need for BBI. There was only need for a handshake. And then a political process would have followed that would have enabled us to address some of the reports that had already been made. For example, the Kriegler report, that should have been addressed and implemented, as part of the processes to reform our electoral processes. The handshake played this important role of toning down the tensions that were there in the country, and once that was achieved, then the next step would have been to say, where do we, which process do we take to ensure that we address the challenges? And there are many reports that have been produced that would have helped us to address these challenges. And on electoral reforms, the Kriegler report is there. On other reforms of social justice, we have the Ndungu report, we have the TJRC report. All these would have been reports that would have helped us to address the challenges that we faced as a nation. Instead, another committee was appointed to produce another report in the name of the BBI report, but it doesn't have anything new.
So people are asking now, the BBI report has been launched. What's the next process? Maybe they'll just take them through the next process.
You see, even the way that the report was unveiled, it is just going around in circles. Because you remember there was a draft, and then we were told, okay, the draft would be polished. Now the draft has been polished. Now it is ready, and now we are being told, now we have to bring in some more input. So when is this process going to end? I actually expected that a roadmap would have been produced yesterday to say that after this, these are the steps that we're going to take, whether we are going to have a referendum, whether we're going to... But we are being told again that we are supposed to comment on the report. So when is this going to end?
So it is not clear.
It is not clear what is the roadmap. After the report, what is the roadmap? And you see, the reason why it is not clear, because it is not anchored in law. Maybe it will be taken to Parliament, and maybe they will write a bill, but we are not told what is the next step. So if it goes to Parliament, then it's going to be a report by who? Is it going to be a report by the government, by opposition, or by who?
Okay. Maybe your last words, maybe to those who haven't read the report.
I think Kenyans should read the report and make their own judgments on what needs to be done. They should not wait to be told by other people. I think it should be translated in a language that many Kenyans can have access to it, including also if it can be explained in mother tongue, in Kiswahili, the national language. I think that is upon now the state to do that, so that everybody can have a say in terms of the recommendations of this report. Yeah.